conscious. So you have to know what is conscious. That's another. I don't think I could sort of tell you what I think consciousness is from a physics point of view. But it turns out that computer is also a conscious computer. Okay, it's a conscious because of it has what's called signal non-locality, which is a technical concept in what's called post-quantum theory. It's like just like in Einstein. First in 1905 had special relativity theory, which explained certain things like E equals mc squared, led to nuclear physics, the atomic bomb, and nuclear reactors, all that kind of stuff. Well, then in 1916 he went beyond his special theory. It took him 10 years, and he had because the special theory did not include gravitation. In order to get gravitation, he had to have a more general theory. Okay, so things that are impossible in a special theory are possible in a general theory. Hey, wait a minute, where did I hear that before? That's from. That's the New Testament, isn't it? About wine and the new wine and new skins or something like that. That guy. Oh, Jesus Christ!
That guy.
He said things like that. Yeah. So the New Testament, you go beyond. So the New Testament is the Old Testament. Is Einstein's general relativity is the special relativity. You could make that kind of analogy. Well, similar way, physics theories are always limited. In fact, we have what's called Gödel's theorem. There's a book called Gödel Escher Bach. That's actually a fairly good book. And he wrote another one called The Mind's Eye, Doug Hofstadter. He talks about all this stuff. You can show any finite system of thought that of sufficient complexity that a man creates, there's always something beyond it. There are true statements you cannot prove within the original system. So you always want to extend your theories. Okay? So just as in quantum theory, certain things are not possible. But quantum theory is a limiting case of a more general theory. And it turns out, there are a lot of popular books saying that consciousness has something to do with quantum theory. Well, yes, in a way, if you sort of, but technically it really doesn't, because the quantum theory is based on a certain constraint, a certain assumption that precludes consciousness, ordinary consciousness. You can make that argument. And there is something called, there's a technical way of getting beyond that, but there's a certain axiom in quantum theory that does not permit consciousness, let me put it that way. But you can change that axiom. Just like you went from Euclidean geometry to non-Euclidean geometry. There's the axiom, the fifth postulate of parallels. Well, you can change that a little bit, and you get a theory that will allow consciousness as a natural kind of physical phenomenon, not a mystical thing. I mean, it's too complicated for me to get into at this point. But so there is this general theory. Okay, so from what's called in the post-quantum theory, you can make an argument that this future horizon, besides being a computer, it has what's called signal non-locality, so it's actually a conscious computer. So it's cosmic consciousness. Is what it is. It's cosmic consciousness. I mean, it really is. So it's sort of exactly what, in theological terms, Teilhard de Chardin anticipated. I mean, it hasn't reached the Vatican yet because she's gone.
So, Jack, to simplify it, then, with Flatland, you remember the book Flatland by A. Square?
Yeah, yes.
Instead of the sphere coming through and the square being raised above and given some consciousness, the sphere is coming from the future.
Yes.
And we're actually.
Well, we're actually okay.
Growing,
Well, we are images. Okay, what do you learn the Bible? Man is in the image of God. Well, that's quite literally true. That God is the hologram on this omega. I call it the omega surface. It's a computer, in a technical sense. MIT physics.
Mm-hmm.
And it's not like crazy physics.
Right.
And there's a guy named Gerard 't Hooft. It's a kind of ironic. Gerard 't Hooft, a Nobel Prize physicist, and he came up with the crazy hologram idea. The idea that we are holographic images is really Gerard 't Hooft's idea. He's a very stuffy Dutch professor at Delft, I think, in Amsterdam, and he's very against Brian Johnson. He's very anti-paranormal. All that stuff. He doesn't realize, but he didn't ask. He assumed. And also my friend Lenny Susskind, professor at Stanford, who I went to graduate school with. We were students together. See, they think it's the past particle horizon. They think the hologram is the past particle horizon. But the reasons why it can't be that, because you get the wrong numbers. It's got to be the future horizon. And that's, I mean, it's debatable.
That makes sense.
Yeah.
Why do we age?
Okay. Oh, good. Thank you. Why do we age? Because, okay.
That's why she's here.
Thank you. Very simple. And this on the holographic thing, it becomes a trivial thing. And I should have had a diagram, which I didn't put in this picture. But what she does, what Tamara Davis does in her thesis, she computes the area of the future horizon, the area of the future as a function of cosmic time. So when it starts at the omega point, I'm sorry, the alpha point, so it's the alpha, I'm the alpha and the omega. The alpha point of creation to the omega point is the far future, where God is totally developed, so to speak. That's the maximum area, so to speak. That's the maximum channel capacity, okay, of God's mind, you see. It starts out at 1 bit, like a little embryo. It's just like one single cell. You know, it's exactly, you know. So it starts out at 1 bit. She can be, and this is computed from Einstein's field equation. This is not just, you know, she computes it, you know, computer simulation, and it reaches what's called an asymptotic constant value. See, that's the dark. Turns out that the dark energy density that we measure from the supernovae, the reciprocal of that, 1 over the dark energy density, is proportional to the area of this thing. You know, let me get back. I should show you some of this picture. Okay, so here's like a picture of our future horizon, but from the outside. But just imagine we're inside at the center. Okay, so the question: the number of these, each little triangle is what's called a pixel. It's a bit of information. It's like a quantum bit. It's like a quantum, actually a post-quantum computer. So it turns out we know exactly how many there are. There are 10 well, within a factor of 10, or a few, maybe within a power or 2 of 10. There are about 10 to the 122 bits of information on this thing. That we measure that from the dark energy density measurements of the astronomers and using the theory. So about 10 to, that's 122 power, that's 10 times 10, 122 times, maybe 123, maybe 121, sometimes 120, but it's around that. It's a big number, okay? And that's the IQ, that's God's IQ, so to speak. So then let's find it. You know, but there may be other gods. See, we're not the only ones around. It turns out there's a multiverse. I mean, there's an infinity of these things. This is just what we are able to observe, limited by light signals. Now, if we had some kind of other telepathy sort of things and could remote view without light signals, then, well, then that's a whole other thing we don't get into. You know, I mean that's really Twilight Zone stuff, you know. And so that's kind of the picture that's developing here. Let me just kind of end it. Let me just go back.
Jack, can you tell us what is your definition of consciousness?
Well, let me finish this and then, okay, fair enough. Oh, okay, now look, here's a weird thing, more synchronicities. This is the ceiling in Sistine Chapel, right? And look what this is. There's, you know, God in the future, reaching back in time to Adam creating. This is like symbolic of the whole picture, right? This is a glorious idea I'm talking about, guys. I don't know people, so, but look what that is. But strangely enough, and this is weird. This is strangely enough, the personal physician of Pope Julius II was the Pope who commissioned this. Personal physician was Samuel Sarfatti. In Venice, and of which I've allegedly descended, probably, who knows, but you know. And he was Michelangelo's anatomy teacher. And according to, there's a Turner Classics special on Michelangelo and Raphael and Leonardo. There's this thing. There's this whole scene where it was, in fact, we have the family crest, the Sarfatti crest is from all this, you know, because of also the Sarfattis did what's the technique, the Tintoretto, you know, that technique, terracotta, what's it, the Tintoretto, the painting technique. I forget what it, no. So, well, it doesn't matter. But in any case, it was allegedly Samuel Sarfatti who brokered the deal, the business deal, for Michelangelo to paint the ceiling in Sistine. Okay, and there we have, you know, what I'm talking about, basically. I mean, it's like it's like the once in the future. You know, God is this maximally conscious computer in the future. You know, that's computing us. We are in its image. We are literally its image. Literally, like the holographic images. Yeah, and that's the whole mathematics in this. So I'm speaking kind of metaphorically, but it's actually technical. It's